Mulan is a story that takes place in war-torn China, whereby a young girl named Fa Mulan pretends to be a boy so that her injured father isn't forced to fight. This sounds like it's going to be a disaster, so Mushu the dragon is sent in as some extra help. If I had to describe Mulan in one word, it is judicious. I thoroughly enjoyed Mulan, if not for the amazing story, memorable soundtrack, and nostalgic 2D animation, but because it proves me right. It proves that modern audiences aren't misogynistic pigs who hate women. They just hate you, Disney. You've got this amazing narrative showing a strong message of teamwork and dedication, whilst promoting girl power in a way that highlights masculinity the way it is. All this does is show me that corporations know exactly what their audience is after. They just won't give us what we want in favour of dumb activism for political correctness points. But let's focus on the former, which is why Mulan is an amazing movie. Things I liked about Mulan. The characters. Absolutely every protagonist on screen is someone that I can root for in this story, and is oh so satisfying when they get their way. Let's start with our main character, Fa Mulan, who starts out as an outcast. She is shamed as not being marriage material in an Asian household where they are all about honor. And in a timeline suiting Imperial China? Oh, Bismillah. Her shot at redemption is handed to her when she is recruited as a soldier for the Emperor's army. And you can see straight away that Mulan is not built for this. She's starting fights amongst the new recruits because she can't interact with men. She's obviously much physically weaker and is prone to being made fun of. And in spite of all of these flaws, she's smart and persevering. She constantly earns the respect of all her comrades through good decision making, which makes the process of Mulan progressing through the recruits that much more satisfying, because even though this movie is pretty fast paced, it's only 87 minutes long, none of the decisions made by the characters feel rushed or out of place. Everything our main character does makes sense in the moment, and it is an absolute joy to finally see her save the day. The character I can relate to the most in this movie is Mushu, as he is seen as the butt of the joke in the Fa bloodline. The first thing Mushu does is selfishly take an opportunity to challenge that reputation, without considering the risk that his impulsive, over-the-top personality has on the other characters in this film. Despite the dangers of his actions, he still stands by Mulan, even giving her the option to go home after she's abandoned in the mountains, showing a more selfless side to this otherwise brash and heartless character. Also, Eddie Murphy's performance is incredibly funny, and it made me chuckle a few times. Finally, the minor characters also serve a purpose on screen. The trio of Yao, Ling, and Chengpo basically sums up the types of people who are in Boots Camp. The three of them grow to be capable fighters and have great chemistry with each other despite their differing personalities. But my highlight goes to Captain Li Shang. He's stoic and patient. He gives his recruits chance after chance after failing in the training segment. He's pragmatic. He's not going to go to any wars unless they are ready. And above all else, he's hench. If he was some scrawny little test tube baby, it would be quite hard for the kids at the cinema to relate to this guy and be like, oh, he's the leader. They should really do as he's told and impress that guy. And you can earn the rank of non-test tube baby by joining my membership on my channel. And you can unlock some sexy emojis that you can show off elsewhere. And if you don't want to pay for that, then don't worry. Just subscribe and carry on watching this video. I got you. No matter how good a story is, you need good characters to follow throughout, and Mulan successfully accomplishes that. The songs. I'ma be real with you G's, I couldn't recite a song in a movie if my life depends on it. But what I can tell you is I was bopping my head to the sound of Brave, Loyal, True, and I'll Make a Man Out of You. On a more serious note, every song is perfectly placed to set the tone of the movie at different times. We start off with Honor to Us All, which immediately highlights the traditional expectations of young girls, and how if they don't conform to those standards, then it's seen as disgraceful to the family that they have no daughter to give away. Not to mention the shame brought amongst the women who aren't compatible with these values. I'll Make a Man Out of You is a training montage, which, despite its fast pace and short length, really tells us a lot. It perfectly highlights that Li Shang is a patient teacher and a pragmatic leader, while shining the star Mulan as persevering, not only through the lyrics, but through the expression on the characters around her as she progresses. This song is fantastic at revealing the journey that our protagonist goes through to be the top recruit in this army as a sizable underdog. But without a shadow of a doubt, the best scene of this movie was when they started singing A Girl Worth Fighting For. Do you guys remember earlier how I said that this film promotes girl power in a way that isn't emasculating? Well, this is a textbook way on how I would personally do it. In an attempt to raise hopes before an upcoming battle, distracting everyone from the injuries sustained from marching for hundreds of miles, the men of the army basically fantasize about their dream girl, the girls in China who they want to protect, impress, and attract, which fundamentally is a man's end goal. Mulan, who is absolutely clueless about the male brain, describes her ideal woman as a brash and opinionated girl boss, and they instantly shut that shit down because ain't no man fighting for a wife who is waiting to nag at me when I get home. And my favourite part is when their hopes are highest, and they've trekked a significant distance. They arrive to a village that has been burnt to a crisp, not an ounce of life anywhere, stained by the savage reality of conflict. Worst of all, littered with the corpses of your fellow allies, led none other than Li Shang's father. I could waffle for hours as to why this scene is so impressive, but it honestly comes down to one thing. They didn't give a fuck. And this is the reason I made this video to begin with, to highlight that Disney, pre-2010, straight up didn't care. They were willing to be a little bit controversial if it meant telling the best story that they could possibly tell. You want to be a bitchy girl boss? Ha ha ha, okay then. Have fun attracting a husband, baby girl, because men don't like that too much. Speaking of which, boys in the cinema, you like violence, do you? Bow. Enjoy watching a village being burnt to a crisp, because that's what happens when you go to war. There's obviously smaller things, like, okay, I'm cross-dressing as a man, I have to be careful because these greasy men might find out I don't have a peen. I also mentioned that Li Shang is hench. Guess what? Girls actually like that. So I'm going to show a bit of attractiveness to that. And the villain Shan Yu commits something that is so dark that even YouTubers are scared to even say it. Murder and killing people. That's my point. Disney, they didn't care. They were happy to risk that G rating if it meant adding a few details that exponentially improves the plot. Things I didn't like about Mulan. The romance. It's G-rated romance, what more are we expecting here? It seems to me they wanted to sail a Mulan Li Shang ship, but it ended up barely floating? Not that I care about romance in the slightest, but in a film that generally doesn't feel forced, this is a dent to the otherwise shiny armor. I'm gonna have to watch the sequel to see how this plays out. To conclude, Mulan is a story based in Imperial China about a girl named Fa Mulan who enters the military so that her father doesn't have to. This film has revealed to me that Disney absolutely are capable of making a good story, which sells morals to the viewer, they just deliberately don't do it anymore. Or rather, they prioritize lecturing their audience over entertaining them, without realizing that both working on morals and on entertainment speeds up the brainwashing tenfold. But you know what makes Mulan special compared to the slop that they're feeding us nowadays? The fact that even though this movie is pushing a specific philosophy of living, it doesn't shit on the old-fashioned ways of living in the past. Rather, they just tell it the way it is. I'll give you an example. Some people may consider it sexist to say that women shouldn't be in the military, even though there are reasons why someone may think that way. Instead of trashing the culture and the society in general, which widely accepted that claim, Mulan has to adapt. She understands that she can't expect the world to adapt to her, so she improvises to the situation by training hard and, number one priority, hiding her identity. When she gets rumbled, she accepts that she's been rumbled. Mulan accepts that she took a life risk a long time ago. It's reasons like these that I enjoyed this film so much, and it absolutely encapsulates what we are missing in the modern day. Final rating, 87 minutes out of 87 minutes. And thank God that Disney never bothered to butcher this story with a live-action remake that completely misses the point of the original and takes away everything that made it so loved and memorable in the first place. That would be an awful universe to live in, now wouldn't it?